Welcome to the Uncomfortable Conversations podcast, the untold stories of the 3HO Kundalini Yoga community. I'm your host, Guru Nishan, and I want to welcome you to another episode. As always, I like to share the reasons why I started this podcast. Number one, to break the veil of silence that has long permeated and continues to strangle the 3HO Kundalini Yoga community in the name of neutrality. Number two, to validate and help clarify the complex feelings of those who have joined this lifestyle, were born and raised into it, and or who have taught or practiced Kundalini Yoga. Number three, to encourage active listening to uncomfortable conversations from our community as a revolutionary act of self and collective healing. Number four, to let survivors know that we see them, we believe them, we love them, and we will fight for their truth to be addressed. Number five, to let teachers who are denying, gaslighting, or spiritually bypassing know that what they are doing is willfully ignorant and re-traumatizing to victims. Number six, to illuminate the inherent racism, homophobia, cultural appropriation, and exploitation that perpetuates the teachings, 3HO lifestyle, and overall community ethos. Number seven, to stop the perpetuation of gaslighting and victim shaming by naming it for what it is. Number eight, to dismantle internalized shame, guilt, toxic positivity, and light-washing mentality. Number nine, to honor all of the parts of ourselves that have been forgotten or silenced. Number 10, to honor each and every body that has come through this community, both named and unnamed. And number 11, to encourage people to do their own research, to process their own emotions, to get somatic therapy and other therapy and cult-specific therapy and support that's needed, to draw your own conclusions, and to be critical thinkers rather than to just blindly follow anyone. Please remember that your story matters. Please share it when you're ready. We're here to listen and to support you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncomfortable Conversations podcast. I want to welcome you back. We have a new survivor story, and I'm excited to introduce our guest for today. Rosalinde Heiml was born in 1963 in southern Germany. At age 20, she moved to Italy to work. In 1985, at age 22, she met Guru Meher Singh, the ashram leader in Rome, and became his Kundalini Yoga student. In February 1986, Yogi Bhajan visited Rome and ordered her to come to the United States. Despite her very limited English and internal hesitation, she quit her job and left for Los Angeles. And after 2 weeks in Los Angeles, she left for Ram Dass Puri and joined the ladies' camp in New Mexico. Back in Rome, she traveled with Guru Meher Singh and his brother's family to the European Yoga Festival in Loches, France. Afterwards, they got married, and her name was changed to Guru Meher Kaur. As the ashram director's wife in Rome, she was expected to embody the perfect Sikh woman. So in 1989, her husband sent her to Hamburg Germany Ashram to be trained by Tarn Taran Kaur. Just 2 years after the birth of her son, they abruptly left 3HO in 1993. Guru Meher Singh continued to teach a Kundalini Yoga hybrid style of yoga in Italy and became a sort of family guru. She gave birth to her daughter in 1995, and 9 years later, in 2011, she finally divorced. With professional support from trauma therapists affiliated with anti-violence centers in Munich and Venice, she began her journey toward freedom and self-discovery. In June 2024, after reading the book Under the Yoga Mat, she contacted Else Kunin and started sharing her story of abuse. This helped her prepare for this interview. Rosalinde is currently involved in illegal cases to regain her freedom and achieve peace. These days, she rents out a studio to tourists in Venice, which brings her great satisfaction. She hopes to keep pursuing her passions, especially in arts and design, and maybe even write a book. Well, Rosalinde, I want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I always like to ask guests, why do you feel it's important to share your story?
Yeah. First, thank you very much for you, and especially you and Els Können, because when I discovered your book last year, it was like 1 month after when I discovered myself. In the video, I sent it you also when I was the first time in the ladies' camp in Espanola, when I was 23 years old. And when I, by chance, sometimes I just start my first researchings on 2012. I find 2 videos from 1st and 11 July 96. And when I saw myself there sitting, this young girl, 23 years old, I was shocked.
This must have been 1986.
1986, excuse me, yeah.
So, for listener, you saw a video like on one of the websites of 3HO or Kundalini Yoga or something, and she saw a video of herself in a Yogi Bhajan lecture at ladies' camp in 1986, and she was in the audience. And this is how your research unfolded, yes?
Exactly. And I was so shocked. I just knew a lot of things. I discovered about the Loches, just at 86 in Albuquerque, everything right after I get separated. But this was really like a tsunami inside in me. I saw sitting this young girl that could be today my grandchild, and also similar to my daughter. There was a lot of emotions, and I saw me with a completely other awareness that I was at the time. And video couldn't be, I have so much pictures, but it's not the same like a video. And I was sitting there, blocked like this, and all the sufferings in my face, I was shocked. I hear this, the speech of Yogi Bhajan that was every day for 1 month. It was how it was impossible to not get indoctrinated. Now my English, it's not brilliant, it's really not brilliant. But at that time, it was really, I almost understand anything. And really the whole day I tried to understand it, but I was exhausted after 3 hours about, excuse me, but I tell this, all this bullshit, excuse me. From the end, there was for sure a lot of strategies inside, but it was absolutely confusing. It was, oh my God, it was something so strong to me. And so right after, my motivation of researching was still more. By chance, I find your presentation under the yoga mat, Els Können, and I just thought, even some years before, maybe I get in touch with you when I read the book of Pamela Dayson, but I wasn't still ready. And there was only Americans, I'm European. And even also the barrier of my language, I don't feel ready at the time. But when I saw you to publish this book, and together with Els Können, it was something like, I immediately ordered the book. I read it, yes. I get immediately in touch with Els Können, and we have an extremely good communication. So really, a huge thanks to you and Els, because you did a huge, huge job. And we worked so much intensely the last year, and she did also the video teachings from Yogi Bhajan. I helped you to translating in Italian and German. Oh, this was something, I get goosebumps, It was to me like, oh my God. And I felt also good because now I was like not alone anymore. Before I felt a huge loneliness. And in this moment, I really felt to join to something, to a community, not 3HO community, but like a former member 3HO community.
Right.
Even when I saw myself sitting there, oh my God. And this really was for me like a tsunami. And in the meantime, also thank a lot to Iris Panther, because she translated in German under the yoga mat. And so I had always the opportunity to read it in German, and German is my mother language. So to read it twice in my language, it still was more powerful.
Yes, yes. You're saying many things. Number one, and I want to say thank you. I'm going to reflect it back a little bit, that you were already doing your research, and then when you saw yourself in a video lecture, and essentially you were just able to, in your adult self today, hear the nonsense and the word salad and the bullshit that he was spewing. You sent me that clip, so we'll go ahead and put that clip into this podcast so people can watch a little bit of it. Essentially, if you go see any of the lectures that are available, you can hear the indoctrination and the way these things are spewed out. You sent me that clip, and I was in that clip, not myself in the video, but as a child, I remember being in that lecture too. And so I remember you coming forward at this time and being like, whoa, like the web of our connection is so wild. Here you are coming from Europe with this whole different story at age 23, being in this lecture, and I was 8 years old at that time, and we obviously don't know each other. But there's many other people that are...
I remember you. I'm almost sure that I remember you. I'm a very good visagist, I'm a painter.
I love it. But the point is there's a lot of you listening to this podcast that can watch this clip of this ladies' camp video she's referring to, and you're going to have your own tsunami of memories because you watch this clip. And so that was the catalyst that Rosalinde was saying, like, wow, oh my gosh, there I am. And then when she found under the yoga mat, the dark history of Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini Yoga, that book, the way that it's put together to be able to really map out the sinister dark web that has always existed. It's not something that came about later. It really exposes all of the material, not just survivor stories, but all the material that is tracked since the early 70s all the way to present day. And then that got you to reach out to Else, and then you start talking. You also got to read her second book, which was The Cultish Nature of Kundalini Yoga and 3HO, and also worthy of a read because it really maps out the cult-specific categories in which 3HO, Kundalini Yoga, and all the business hybrid systems operate in a cultic mechanism. So those of you that are continuing to teach Kundalini Yoga worldwide, in Europe, in America, in Mexico, in China, wherever you are, you're operating within a cultic system that you're continuing to perpetuate. And so what I hear you saying is that you were supported by the German translation of the first book, and then also then supported Else in getting the next book translated, and the relationship you created with Else gave you
was so precious.
Yeah, to support, to help you get ready to tell this story and to get your English
Absolutely.
ready. And to your collaboration with her. So it's like you were able to join a community of people, not be so alone in your recovery process.
Absolutely.
Because you're part of X3HO people that are telling the truth and speaking truth to power about the cult and abusive systemic nature of abuse that's infused in Kundalini Yoga and the 3HO lifestyle.
Absolutely. Really, absolutely. Thank you so much, Guru Nation, because you're very good to point the things. Very clear and very focalized on this. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope also in the future, I hope to translate Under the Yoga Mat also in Italian.
Yeah.
We will see. I have to find the right contacts. And yeah, this the reason that you asked me why it's for me it's important to share it. Yeah, this you just. Yeah, so let's go with my story.
Let's do it. I want to thank you for the courage and foresight that you've had to prepare yourself to be involved, to support the cause, to support Else in her mission to really get the systemic abuse of Kundalini Yoga and 3HO, the increased awareness in Europe. It's a really important mission. Anyone listening to this that wants to be of support in translating in any capacity, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Else Kunin at Kundalini Yoga Abuse and be a part of this process, because it's through us telling our story and prepping ourselves with support of each other that we can support each other's awakening. And no matter what, people are continuing to teach Kundalini Yoga, and they're continuing to perpetuate a lot of these same, quote, teachings. So the process of getting these materials out and available to the public helps to disrupt and at least make people ask a better question of how they're reconciling, perpetuating an abusive system that people want to pretend it didn't happen. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you for your effort and your courage to tell your story. It's not easy. And I also know you come from it's a complex story. So I thank you.
They're like two stories. So let's start with the first one.
What we heard in your bio was you became Guru Meher's Kundalini Yoga student, and then very soon after got pulled right into the fold. So why don't you begin and tell us wherever you want to start?
So yes, let's start. I met Meher. I became his yoga teacher in autumn 85. I was just 2 years in Rome. I was very just integrated. I was au pair. I really liked. I never had problems, even with same age friends. It was everything okay. I worked in a very important dental studio also. But it was not enough for me. I was very thirsty for spirituality and also art. Italy is an art land, And so I started to become his yoga student. And slowly, I was alone at that time. I was very young. All my friends, the au pair girlfriends, they was gone back to Germany. I come back, I find this word. I still don't have friends. My home, it wasn't a young friends, but an old lady, not so sympathetic. So I was really hungry also for a family, not only yoga and art when you want. So by chance, for me, this ashram from Guru Meher at that time became my family. Even if there was the most from them older than me, I was the youngest one. There was always between 35, 40. Yeah, today I tell young people I'm 62. Okay. But at that time, I was like the child. And I felt really welcomed, I was seen and everything was okay, and even the Kundalini. I wasn't like this type that really likes so much the yoga. I wasn't this physical type, but I like very much the music. The music have to me a huge effect. You can tell a drug effect, yes, addiction effect. And the cancer string band songs, they always let me cry. And that was really nice. It's not anything bad about it. And I find it also so sad that Yogi Bhajan exploited all the skills from all these people. They really get so much to them. And he exploited it so much. Oh. So all this at that time was for me wonderful. I was in charge to prepare the yogi tea. I remember still the huge pot. And there was just everything preparing for the arriving of Yogi Bhajan. Guru Meher was just 12 years inside in the 3HO, and at that time just almost 8 years ashram leader in Rome. He just created a huge community together at that time with his brother. And just the few years before, and I show you some pictures, every year private audience with Wojtyla. At that time, I don't know about anybody, even about Premkar, about anybody, and for sure not about Guru Jod. So I think at that time maybe he wasn't anymore in Rome. But I knew that he was the ashram leader, he had an important position, but I never could even, absolutely don't have a clue what really was behind the scenes about his power and all this. I couldn't know it. And everything was so excited, you know. And I was still working in the dental hospital. I was still split between two realities. I was in Rome. I was just abroad. Okay, I was still in Europe. I was also extremely welcomed in the dental studio. They liked me very much. And I could really have a career there. It was there was coming also politician to the studio. My wage was not the best, but it was also financial autonomy. I was dependent anymore on my parents. And all this, I was also proud about it to find a work in Italy, you know, or that allows me to live in a country that I love, in a country that also satisfied all my needs for art, but there's also the need for spirituality. So at that time I was really splitted because I did start to eat garlic and everything in the studio, you know, all this. And slowly, today I know that just at that time when I start to become a yoga student, I was groomed in realness. Today I know, at that time I was just groomed.
But you didn't know that at the time. You were just starting.
No, absolutely.
So you start eating garlic, you're doing the yoga, you're waking up early doing sadhana maybe. Are you?
So I was going late work to work. I was late when I was in the work, you know.
Did you start wearing a turban or did that come later?
Not yet. But just he'd buy me like white dresses, and when Yogi Bhajan comes, you have to remove the hair again for the forehead, and you have to be very modestly and crazy, you know, all like this. I wasn't aware about it. I was growing up in the countryside in Bavaria in a very humble family, and the patriarchy was extreme. Can you imagine? Catholic. I have two aunties, there was nuns. So I was just trimmed to be a very modestly girl, you know. And I was lucky that my mother was a very generous woman. In spite she was growing up in the so close countryside and heavy, and really she was for me in this way a huge help. But
you're working as an au pair, you're going to dental school, you're kind of have that track, but you're also getting more and more involved in the yoga system. And when Yogi Bhajan came, you had mentioned that there around 1985, like around that time, he comes and sees the Pope, and it was a big hoopla. So you're barely a new student at that time, and you're starting to just kind of see that as like a big deal, and they're kind of feeling like your family.
Exactly. I felt this exciting energy. It was like, Yogi Bhajan is coming, and this and that and there. And I just saw also his pictures, and yes, seems all a little exaggerated maybe at that time, because I was still with one foot, I was still in the normal reality of work, that you have to be there, you have to do your duty. But just at that time he told me, why you work? And I was always worried to come late. Why this and why that? At that time I really wasn't aware about it, how important it is for a woman to be autonomy. Because I come from a culture, countryside Bavaria, that I had a father that he hoped that I married a rich farmer. And I go, I never will marry a rich man. I go, and I also choose Italy, you know. I want to experience new things. My nature was always very curious. And so thanks to my mom, because she was a very generous mother. She not possessive. She really allowed me to go far and to be free and not in this sticky, close environment.
So here you are in Italy, half foot in and half foot out. You're getting involved, and then?
When finally Yogi Bhajan comes, on February 86, they just organized, now Yogi Bhajan will see you. I obviously was very curious. And they told me, you know that Yogi Bhajan knows that you are taller than Guru Meher, because I'm like this taller. I'm very tall. I'm almost 1.80 m, and I'm like 3 centimeters taller than him. And he told me, you know that Yogi Bhajan know this. Today I think we are both all silly. And I don't remember if I asked him, for sure someone told him that I'm taller to him. But at that time it seemed that everyone believes that Yogi Bhajan has this special skill to know everything, you know. They just describe him as a man that he knows everything about you, like a half god, you know. And today I think, how can believe this silly thing? It's like, today I have the feeling I regressed, I become a child again, and believe on Father Christmas? I don't know what. But today I think it was a grooming strategy. All the surrounding people in the Roman ashram, I told you, 35, 40 years old people, academic titles, not simple psychiatrics, doctors, they believe it.
You're working as a dental assistant, you're working as an au pair, you're taking yoga, you're getting involved because this is a real like draw in terms of the spiritual connection you're receiving. Even though you're not so much into the yoga, you loved yogi tea, you loved the music, you loved the community culture, the connection. And there was so much excitement when Yogi Bhajan had come over for the Pope, and then they finally say, oh, he's coming to Rome, but now you're going to be able to meet him. He's going to see you. And so they're giving you the fantastical magic of what having a private talk with Yogi Bhajan means. And as a new person, you're just kind of like getting in the enthusiasm of their excitement, what you're now naming as what we know is the grooming process. But in that time, it's more like you're young. They are the wisdom holders. They're the ones who've been around for 10, 20 years. They're the senior teachers. They're the wise teachers. And now the super wise teacher, Yogi Bhajan, is coming into Rome. And so you're just there for the excitement and you're listening. You're being a good student, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, right.
Carry on.
Thank you. So the final day was coming. So the meeting was next to the ashram in Harpal Singh's house, the brother of Guru Meher. And he was surrounded about all the Roman inner circle and all the other students. And I was sitting there just very nervous and right dressed and how they're told to have to be.
I'm going to pause. Pause. I want the listeners to hear. So Guru Meher Singh was one of the ashram, one of the head people, Kundalini yoga people in Rome, and he had been in 3HO for well over 10 years. He joined like in 1976 or something early, yeah?
He joined about this, and in Rome at the time, he come the end of 70s, he come to Rome to open the ashram. I don't know exactly, 78 or 79.
And this is important to understand because his brother was also in. His brother was named Harpal Singh, and he had his wife was Harpal Kaur.
Yeah.
Guru Meher Singh had a different wife early on that was also an arranged marriage.
Yeah,
her name was also Guru Meher Kaur.
Exactly.
So I'm wanting the listeners to hear that Rosalinde is getting in on a 10-year plus journey where all these people have already been. They're considered kind of the OGs of 3HO Rome, and now she's getting pulled into the fold as a new yoga student.
Harpal and his wife, there wasn't really inside. There was like in-out. At that time, when I joined, there was just very, but not really like Guru Meher. They had their normal life. They don't put turbans in Rome. They have their professions, you know. So really, at that time in Rome, there wasn't really less people that have turbans. It was Guru Meher. It was Guru Shaba. There was several ones still today. But it was like that really always with turban, like 10 people. Even 10 people about, yeah.
Great.
And yeah, so I was sitting there. So finally the door was open suddenly, and I was coming out from the Gemini room because he was hosted there in the house of Harpal Singh. This huge man, this huge Indian man, you know, a very unusual Indian man, still very handsome about this age. And with this white underwear, curtain underwear, white top, and like the bread down, and like a sort of turban. And I was like, you know, I was like shocked and was like, how can I tell? I saw this huge man. It seems like bright, lightly, really bright. I can really tell you the same feeling I had when I was a child and there was coming this guy's Father Christmas. You know, when you're a child and they come Father Christmas. But in an Indian style, you know. Like an Indian stylish Father Christmas in front of me was coming there. Oh my God, no, it's really tremendous. Yeah, it's better laughing to not cry. Okay. So he was sitting there in front of me. It was like in the middle. And I felt like, yes, a little uncomfortable, you know, but also very excited. And everything was focused to me. He was sitting in this huge chair like a pasha. And right after him, in the line, he was followed with his secretaries. I don't tell the name, but you just now can imagine who I mean. And this feeling, my impression that I have at that time, that the secretaries, the feeling that I had, I was a little scared. But at that time, I wasn't aware about depression. I wasn't aware what happened to women when they get abused and all that and all that. But it was like a very heavy energy. And I remember like not like a bright light like Yogi Bhajan, but gray. Like I felt like an unlively energy. There was very serious. I don't realize a smile. They don't have the turban. And I don't know, I had really, in this moment, I was very confused. Today I know, but we don't analyze now. But you know, it was also for me, it wasn't my culture. And I was a little shocked about they were so rigid. They seemed like soldiers. Yeah, I know, we were soldiers, I know. But at that time, I wasn't still a soldier, Guru Nishan. I wasn't still a soldier. Later on, it was normal for me, okay. But in this moment, the first moment, I saw soldiers. Very hard. And Yogi Bhajan, okay. So he started his bombing to me the attention, no? They translated the time. So he really told so stupid things. So the first thing that he told to me, I remember I was impressed that he knew about me and Guru Meher. I just was prepared. I really felt at the time that he knew about my destiny. Just there was something starting, this feeling. It's almost 40 years ago, but this feeling that he knows something about me. And he told, you're Bavarian. And he told, yeah, you know that the Bavarian and the Jewish and the Sikh people, they are very similar, they're the same. You can eat them and they come out behind whole. And everyone was laughing. I was laughing because the other was laughing. And, so unlogical things. In a certain moment, he mentioned a German lady, I don't know the name now, don't tell, even spiritual name. And he told me, you don't have the nose like, you have like Aryan somatic, like Northern Germany, but like Aryan, like different. I don't have somatic traits, somatic traits. Who studied the race? Like, the Nazism regime studying the race, the measurements. If you have the forehead list, you're like a criminal or this and like. So he told to me, you have typical somatic traits like him, like him, and the Aryan people. Aryan, it was the Aryans from this Nazi regime, But for me it was so strange. Why he tell all this bullshit? Why? Because certain things, they remain in my head, At that time, I was absolutely, I couldn't understand it. The only fact had it, I get very confused. Extremely confused about all this. Third moment was finished, this meeting, and there was organized every evening to eating out in a restaurant. All the stuff, all the other, even from Hamburg, there was the Tarn Taran wasn't here. I think also the Guru Das. So everyone to stay on the same table with him. And so there was really a lot of attention to me. And they surround the voice that I am the right woman for Guru Meher.
Yeah, so I want to recap and just see if we are catching what's going on. It sounds like in this first meeting, he comes in his cacheras, which is basically his underwear, his kind of shorts underwear and kind of like a half turban. It's kind of very casual with a shirt. And so that throws you off guard. And then the trail of women secretaries come in and you're saying they don't have turbans on. So it's all very casual. They have their hair down. But you're saying like when they came in, it wasn't this bright energy. It was quite dark and heavy, which is confusing at the time. You're the new person in the room. You've also been groomed to be there to kind of believe that Yogi Bhajan can read your destiny and knows things about you. And then the interactions that you're sharing with us, he makes a couple jokes about your ancestry, that Bavarians, he's kind of making Bavarians and Sikh and Jewish people a joke that you can eat them and then they come out whole. And then also he's saying, oh, you have the facial features of the Aryan race, which is essentially like building you up to be some sort of high quality person through kind of racist lingo that is supposed to build your ego. And then essentially it sounds like in the room, he's kind of like building you up and putting you down all at once in this kind of confusing manner. The whole room laughs because that's what everyone does. You even indicated that the Guru Das's came who were opening up Spain, and then Tarn Taran Singh and Kaur were opening, they were the ones running Hamburg, Germany. So whenever Yogi Bhajan came to Rome, it was a big hoopla. People were coming from all different areas to put their attention on him. And in these particular cases, was set up as if you were being tested to see if you were worthy of being the woman for Guru Meher Singh. And keep in mind, listeners, he had already had a wife prior, and all these people knew this. But this young woman getting groomed into it doesn't necessarily know the history of his last wife and the 10 years prior. And yet all these leaders, the Tarn Tarans, the Guru Dasas, these leaders knew because they had been in since early USA, late 60s. So that's what I'm hearing from what you've said so far.
Exactly. And there is really, to complete what you told, it's absolutely true. I remember when I told about the restaurants, I remember there was always, everyone was to stay on the same table. And once I remember I was on the table, I never knew Tarn Taran Kaur before, and we're sitting on the table, and I felt her gaze, her energy was much more sweeter, softer. And when she looked at me, at that time I don't understand it so well, I couldn't, today I can give them a meaning, but she looked me like an older sister, because she knew about all the story before. She looked me really like an older sister.
I want to do a pause and a silence for Tarn Taran Kaur. She recently passed. So for all those that don't know, love to her family and her daughter, and we are with you. Yeah, we got a complex history, a web of history together. All right, so keep going. So you're talking to us. You are being
and I remember
to be married.
Yeah, so there are really certain moments that never will go on. And in Tarn Taran Kaur, in this moment, I really felt like also light. It was very short, you know. She was also very soldier, you know. And it was 3 years before I go to Hamburg. It's very interesting because before Yogi Bhajan comes, like one month before, Guru Meher asked me if he can imagine to marry him. And at that time I told him, you can forget it, you know. How can I present a man 18 years older than me with beard and turban to my parents? It's impossible. You know, at that time I have an affair with him. At that time I had a normal affair. You know, I was very young. I want to yoga. You know, happen. It's not so unusual, you know, that's happened this. And I really thought, okay, it's experience. I really was sure, we will see what's happened. And Okay. And after, when Yogi Bhajan come and all this exciting and all these things and that, and behind the scenes, maybe what I even couldn't understand at the time, I want married Guru Meher.
Wow. I got to pause you here, and I got to do a moment of silence for all the yoga students that ended up sleeping with their yoga teacher, because that's what these yoga teacher men and women have been taught to do. And that is a large group of people. So you're talking about you having kind of regret for having an affair. He's trying to set you up to marry. And you're like, no, why would I want to marry an old guy? And then suddenly, after this whole hoopla with Yogi Bhajan, suddenly you think it's your original idea. Hey, yeah, Guru Meher should be my husband. How normal is that? Oh, Lord.
The clue is that I remember the magic word from Yogi Bhajan when he told me that I deserve a man who protects me also in an existential way. You know, at that time I told you I wasn't even aware about the importance to be really autonomy. And I told about my father when he told, hey, go away, I don't want a rich farmer. But I had absent father. You know, I have absent father. He don't protect me. And I think, believe me, I think in this moment, especially, I think a lot of students, they join to the cult, I think they have absent fathers maybe.
Not just that, but just some sort of complex family history. And
yeah.
what I will promise you is that Yogi Bhajan knew these things because the leaders of these ashrams were taught to get the information of the people and then to set up the, quote, teacher to, as if he knew all this information, but really he got fed that information from the leaders of these respective areas.
Ah, you're right.
So
Yeah.
We don't know that, where the leaders of each ashram, a part of what they're doing, whether it's Hamburg or Spain or Italy, they're trying to have more numbers than the other ashram, right? So there's an internal competition to get the most amount of converted yoga students to dedicated Sikh people, right? And so a part of the way you do that is to groom them into the Yogi Bhajan fold and to let him direct their life, right? And so you can't say no to Bhajan. So he plants those seeds before, right? And then before you know it, you have an affair with them. And again, not uncommon, the amount of young yoga students that had affairs with the ashram directors around the world is too many numbers to count. So anyway, I find it really interesting what you're saying, because it really fits a model that happened in a lot of ashrams.
Really, it's this or the reason, because for me it's important to share, to have this confirmation from you and hope also from others. Yes, and it's not a secret. Guru Meher was a womanizer. Everyone knew it. He was a humanizer. And Yogi Bhajan tried to match him every year with a secretary from America, but he couldn't. He had a lot of affairs, you know, but I was full on the drop, and I know today why it could happen today. And also when you told me all the informations about the race thing, because I'm German, you know, and especially after I'm really the first generation that born in a war-free generation, and the first war-free generation after the Second World War. So. And at that time, before I met Guru Meher, I never knew about the sense of guilt of my generation German, that we were still Nazi. But at that time, it's true, the sense of guilt exists in my generation. It was not a very easy thing, especially when I was abroad, because not every German was Nazi. So maybe to have this feeling of inferior, to let me feeling inferior in this complex. And I was coming in the years so strong that I even was ashamed to speak German. So heavy it was. To give me away my identity, you know. Yogi Bhajan left, and I was ready to be the wife for Guru Meher. There was still 3 months, And in the ashram there was still another, because when the first Guru Meher Kaur left, Guru Meher opened his ashram and invited students from all over the world. But at that time when I met him, there was still remained only one, Sadhana Singh. He was a policeman and he was a very good cooker. And every year when Yogi Bhajan comes, he really tried to convince him to come to America. So he left 1 month before me, and he got matched with Akashakar. You know maybe Akashakar, the bridal cook of Michael Jackson?
I do know Akashakar, and many.
And Sadhana Singh was the favorite cook of for Michael Jackson.
And it was her, Sadhana Singh and Akashakar were married.
Ah, you know Sadhana Singh?
We do. Many listeners here will. And Akashakar.
No. We lived together, this month together in the ashram. So Sadhana Singh had also fiancé, Tarn Taran Kaur, both from Sardinia. And Tarn Taran Kaur was very sad when he did, and when we, So this was, and everything was so amazing. Michael Jackson, this and that and this and that, and and you have to take the turban, you look so nice and all of this, Because the idea to take a turban in Rome, it was for me absolutely not unimaginable, to go with a turban in Rome. So there was a lot of love bombing, a mix of love bombing, pressure, and all what you want. And I was very splitted because I have really a very good relationship with my colleagues in the work. I don't tell them anything. My mom was coming also to Rome still months before to visit me. I don't told her anything about Guru Meher. I only showed her the other part. She was also very proud that I find her work, and they don't know anything. And I knew that for a certain moment the pressure was so strong to quit my job. And to tell this to my mom, it was for me something like, how can I do it? I have a very, very loving relationship with my mom. She was really very, there was never no secrets, How can I tell to my mom that I go to America? How can I, by chance, where I work, they offer me also to do a course for orthodontics, also in America. So I told to my mama half lie. Still today, I'm not guilty, but certain things, they remain in you. So I told to my mom I will go to America to do this course. I don't quit my job. And we'll come back, the time that suppose 1 month I come back. So she was convinced that I'm going there for this. But in realness, I quit my job and I go to the ladies' camp in L.A.
So when you first go to L.A., what are you doing in L.A.?
So, my departure. I departed with Tarn Taran Kaur. She was so sad and all this and that. But she remained in New York, so from New York I go alone to L.A. Just this was for me very shocking. I was never in America. All the sounds was different, I was coming there to LA alone and all this. I had only the checks that Guru Meher prepared me. I was totally dependently in this moment financial to him. I don't have my job anymore. I have shot the ticket to go back and arranged to stay in the ashram of Ram Dass Singh. When I arrived, it was just night, and waiting outside in the hall, there wasn't anybody. I was terrified at that time. So I called him from the public phone with the coin. And I was also upset at what has happened. I'm staying there alone and there is nobody. I even don't know if I wait an hour, could be maybe half an hour. But in this moment, I really felt lost. And so in a certain moment he was coming. One member of the Ram Dass Singh ashram. I was, finally he comes.
Who?
One of the member, not Ram Dass Singh. I don't remember the name.
Okay.
I don't remember the name. So we was arriving there, and really I felt so warmly, I was so confused. I felt so lost.
And nobody spoke
I felt
Italian.
so lost.
Nobody spoke Italian, or you couldn't
Nobody.
speak to anybody. So you're
I felt so lost
Ram
in this
Dass
moment.
Singh's ashram alone in LA.
Oh,
Terrible.
if I think about it, this was really terrible for me because it wasn't my culture, it wasn't my place. You know, I have different culture shocks, not only to come to America, but Turpan, white Indian Turpan people, you know, it was everything so crazy.
Shocking.
It was shocking. And I shared the room with a young girl, and I think she had also problems. I felt she had problems. She wasn't very open. And the curious thing was the only person that I felt more familiar was the homemade that was coming during the day, a young Mexican girl. Yeah, she was speaking with me, you come from Europe and this and that, and you know, she was Spanish, Alice, speaking a little Italian. So it was more, I felt more familiar to them, to her.
But she was a young teenager.
Young, like my age, you know, like, well, it's like normal when you met people from other countries. Very natural, very spontaneously. There was not the seriousness.
Did you get involved in like going to the Gurdwara or going to yoga classes?
Yes, so after one week, and this is also a very interesting thing that for sure you helps me to order it in the right way. So Tarn Taran Kaur still wasn't arriving. So I really, when she come. So I was going alone to the Gurdwara, and it was so uncomfortable to stay there. I don't like it, absolutely not. And right after, there was coming next to me a couple, like 40-year-olds, both from Hamburg. So nice. And they told to me, you're coming right now to America. You can't stay alone. Yeah, I was really very lonely at this moment. You have to stay with someone. And they organized a date with a young Mexican man. So, in this moment, I was so embarrassed because they organized a sort of date. And it's curious, in this moment I was aware that they weren't matching me, maybe. You know what I mean? But I couldn't tell, no, I'm not interested. I was so gentle, you know. I wasn't at that time able to say no.
Well, in the setting of an ashram, how would you ever say no? You're a young yoga student, and these people are established people that seemingly know what they're doing. So,
so finally, I met this young man, very handsome young man, that maybe without beard and turban could be a charming prince, you know. But there wasn't absolutely any feeling from, you know. I felt so confused. And we go together to the cinema. I still remember the film The Runner. And he buy popcorn with one tooth together, like a couple, eating the popcorns. And right after, I felt really so strange. And I think, I don't know if it was in the Mexican community also, you know. I have to deal with so much different cultures in this moment.
but
he was really
This is someone in the ashram, though. He's wearing.
Yeah, a very nice young Mexican man, really very nice. And he was also very educated. But you feel, no, as a woman, that can be maybe interest, you know. But in this moment, I felt so, you know, he bring me back to the ashram, and we started speaking. But I really tried to finish it. I felt like I have this feeling, I had a huge homesickness. You know, I think inside, my intuition told me, be careful. You want to go back. Be careful. Finally, the time was coming that also Tarn Taran Kaur, and we go to the ladies' camp. The first year in the ladies' camp, I really felt it was a camp, you know. It was really like a Boy Scout camp, or really a Spartanic camp, where we have to be. Cold shower in the morning and all this, and I see it in my face. The first year still, I don't have so much rememberings about key moments. I was also before in Ram Dass Puri. The Tantra, Guru Meher told me to not do the Tantra, to not do it at that time. And yes, it was really very, very, everything very heavy. I had huge homesick. It was very huge homesickness. And my only channel to home was Guru Meher, because my parents, my mother don't know anything about it. So I really suffer very much to be so far from home.
So you were in LA and you had these kind of weird experiences going from loneliness to then meeting people to being set up on a potential date, which is weird because you're being groomed to be married off to Guru Meher. And then you wait for Sadhakar to come, and then you two travel to New Mexico and go to Ram Dass Puri, but you had already been directed by Guru Meher Singh to not do tantric yoga while you're there. And I'm guessing it's because they always used to say that if you do tantric yoga with someone that you would marry that person, and he wanted to be the one marrying you, so he didn't want you doing it with somebody else. So that's funny. And then you're feeling really homesick. I can imagine you don't know anybody still. So even at Ram Dass Puri, you don't really like get connected to anybody speaking.
There was also another thing in the Ram Dass Puri. I don't remember if Tarn Taran Kaur did the tantra. I don't remember anymore. The first day was really very lonely. There was several people I met, but not so much. But also there was the silence. You remember some joys to do silence, and Guru Meher suggested me very strong to do silence. And this was for me tremendous. You can imagine 1 week silence. I remember in the meantime that the Tantra, I was alone outside. I was walking in the desert, chanting for myself and crying.
Yeah, you remember those silence years, everybody? I totally remember those years. We're talking about 1986 around now. So, yeah, just wow. So then you're doing the silence. You're not doing Tantra. So you're just spending so much time alone. You're in your own mind. And you don't really know anybody, you know Sadhakar, and then obviously you know some of the couples that come from Europe, right? But they don't talk to you per se. They're kind of like head honchos doing important things.
The first year there wasn't so much. The first year really there was really very less, very less. Yes, some Germans, I told you, Tarn Taran Kaur, but she was always fixed on her problem with Sadhana Singh, that she lost him, you know, and so she slowly find other friends. There was also the German group, so I was like always between the German and the Italians, you know, it was like this and that. This was like the first year. The first year of ladies camp was very heavy, but when I come back to Loches, right after, how I told you, we had the Tantra, I did it with Guru Meher, and right after I get married.
Yeah, so going back to ladies camp real quick, did you camp? You had a tent?
Yeah,
okay.
I had first year I have a huge tent together with Tarn Taran Kaur.
Gotcha. So you two were tenting together at ladies camp.
This was still good.
You stayed for the full 5 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
4 weeks. You did
4
all
weeks.
4 weeks, and the European Yoga Festival was already going. So these leaders of Europe are probably going to the European Yoga Festival.
Yeah,
and
also Yogi Bhajan. Also Yogi Bhajan was coming.
So,
yeah.
So now you finish your time at ladies camp, and then you fly to Europe, and you go with Guru Meher Singh and his family, brother and his wife, to Loches. You do tantric with Guru Meher Singh, because now this is the first time you're doing tantric. He didn't want you to do it alone.
I did it there was one before when Yogi Bhajan was in Rome.
But still with Guru Meher.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify. So he's not wanting you to have another partner. And notice how he's controlling her behavior even from afar, and how he's the only contact person for her, because she had lied her way to the U.S., so she really had no other support system outside of the communication directly with Guru Meher Singh. And so now going back to, do you have more you want to say about ladies camp before we jump to Loches?
No, the first year of Lady cannot, but the 87, 88, I have several things to tell.
Okay, so you come back to Loches. This is early European Yoga Festival, quite small. We'll put a couple pictures up there because she has some pictures. And after the European Yoga Festival, then you all get married, or at the festival itself?
Right after the festival.
So not in Loches. You go back home.
No, in Loches.
So after the festival, you're one of those couples that gets married after the yoga festival.
Yeah. There was get married a lot, And there was also coming his parents, because they had the possibility. And the most difficult thing was for me to tell to my mom that I get married. This is one of the moments that really, in my heart still today, oh my God. If I think this today, I don't have a sense of guilty, but I can imagine what my mom not suffers about it. Because she gave me all the trust, and I remember I told to him, I have to advise my mom. And there really wasn't from outside home who told me or to support me to do it. I did it by myself. I still was moment there really inside. There was still a sort of critical part. There was still, my heart was still, I wasn't like this sort of dehumanized, because very easy in a cut you get dehumanized, you know. You lose your humanity and your empathy. But the bond was too strong that I couldn't do it. So I called her. You was never in Loches? You was in Loches?
My brothers
No.
were. I had two brothers that went to Loches.
Yeah. So, and I called my mom like 1 or 2 days before. For sure she don't give me the blessing. It was heavier. So, but I was very able after to really give you assurance, no mom, it's not a cult, it's a religion. And believe me, Guru Nation, at that time, and very often I ask myself, how could it happen that I fall in this cult? I have a brother who is in a cult. When I was in Munich, I remember in the beginning of 80, there was very popular Osho, because before I was in Munich, you know. There was and a lot people from all over the world. That was fanatic for me. When I saw the Osho portraits posted in the gallery, in the subway, I was like scared, you know. I risked also to finish in the moon sect, but always right in time, I get saved, you know, when because my mom don't pay the workshop, and I knew in the municipal house in Munich there was a flyer, so I was advised. And why it's happened with Yogi Bhajan? Because I thought it was a religion. Believe me, I thought it was a religion. He seems like a bishop. He met the Pope. It was the Sikh religion. And this is what I told to my mom. Oh, we're no religion, you know. Oh, okay. This is the reason. Yeah. For me, for myself.
Yeah, and I want to point out that there were just so many patterns of things that you had gone through that set you up to have that sort of legitimacy put into your consciousness. Like, it's a part of how the Sikh religion has been used to legitimize the actions and behaviors of Yogi Bhajan and the secretaries and the leaders that went to the respective areas. And that's why I love Philip de Slip's work, where he kind of traces the academic origin story from a real academic point of view, the origin story of YB through the academic lens, because we can see how he, quote, legitimized himself and used the Sikh religion as a way to give more legitimacy to something. And you're pointing that out as a part of the way the grooming system works. Like, before you know it, you've arrived at a conclusion that has actually been implanted in you for many reasons. So I want to go back and just say, I think one of the reasons you had to get sent to the U.S. is because the U.S. had far more religious legitimacy around the movement than Europe had at that time. Europe had a few American leaders that had been sent to European locations and a few European leaders in European locations that were bringing Sikhi and the full turban, wear white, the whole lifestyle part of yoga into it, kind of like a colonial outpost. These leaders were sent from the U.S., like the Tarn Taran sent to Germany and the Guru Das is sent to Spain or wherever, to kind of go into the frontier and bring Kundalini yoga to the wild, wild European places, right? And that happened in all places in the world. But the point is that, Rosalind, you're pointing out that before you got moved into the fold as the official wife, there had been many occurrences of you being led to that and then sent to the U.S. so you could you got sent to L.A. to kind of see the religious grandiosity in that ashram. And then in New Mexico, the religious grandiosity, not just the yoga, but why wearing all white is so important. Why wearing a turban? Because it's a religion. It's not just a cult doing weird things. So here you're now puppeting that language to your mom as a source of legitimacy.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, you get the point, right? Yeah. For me, it was like, it was for me like an order, a religious order.
Yeah, well
Not
said.
dressed like the nuns black, but white. Or also the, you know what I mean?
I do, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So well
So it
said.
was really, for me, it was family. He sure wasn't mine, He wasn't so family to me like Yogi Bhajan. He was the good father, the good father. Yeah.
Okay, so you get married. What else?
So I get married and we went back to Rome. And my mother was coming immediately, and he met also, I had a very good relationship to my mother-in-law. And that was I really loved them, and father-in-law. I really loved them very, very much. And I know what she also suffered about. Yeah, I can tell it publicly. She suffered a lot to have her son in this cult. Yeah. So the expectation when I was in Rome was very high to representing. And ashram leader have to have a perfect wife next to him. And still the first year I don't want to take a turban. I still do not take a turban. And just at that time also Guru Meher was like a little more a rebellion son. And at that time there was just starting like a competition between because Yogi Bhajan, he separated them, It was very good to divide and conquer. He did it with everyone, but especially at that time with the two brothers, And so there was always like this, this sort of rivalry that it wasn't, believe me, it wasn't very nice. It was like too polarizing. And the brother, he was a psychiatrist. No, he's not alive anymore. Psychiatrist and family therapist. He was very popular in Rome. And he had a lot of followers of psychologists and psychiatrists, doctors between really academic people, a lot. And that was very, very on it, And in a certain way, his brother was also more, at that time, it seems like he was the preferred son from Yogi Bhajan.
And this is
And the
Harpal
strange
Singh, and then his wife was
Yeah.
Harpal Kaur, and she was like
Yeah,
a pediatrician
Harpal.
or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're talking about more prominent people. They are psychologists,
Yeah,
medical
yeah.
therapists.
Yeah.
The wife is
Yeah.
a pediatrician. They obviously are higher, quote, class financially.
Yeah.
Yogi Bhajan's kind of giving him more attention, and it starts to create a rift between the yoga teacher, dedicated Guru Meher Singh, but then his brother who is more prominent and makes more money and has more influence.
Yeah, he was more, even about his good job. And he was very, how you tell when you're more
Charismatic,
extroverted.
More people.
Guru Meher is very introverted. He is not so social type. He had more difficult to speak in the public. He also admitted by himself it was clear. So he was translated because he lived 7 years in America. But anyway, at that time, and it's strange because it's normal. At that time, there was a huge rivalry between the leaders in Europe. Tarn Taran and Guru Meher, impossible. Guru Das, the same.
Meaning they don't get along.
No, absolutely. There was a huge conflict situation and a rivalry. And it's normal that I was more to Guru Meher. I don't knew anything. I also have the feeling like, not that I protect him, but when I saw all this, I knew only his version. I don't saw the whole spectrum, I was limited in my even about my judgment, even to the others. Today I think totally different. It's normal. But at that time, it was huge conflict situations
big
continuously.
Rivalry, real rivalry.
Oh.
Again, you're listening. If you're listening, the Guru Dasas were in Spain, Tarn Taran's in Germany. Here, Guru Meher is in Rome. So again, these behind the scenes, these areas, just like all the ashrams in the U.S., were pitted against each other in a way, because Yogi Bhajan wanted to see like who would be the best kind of thing, have the most converted students.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, at that time, when I joined to the cult, was this sort of ferment, this sort of energy.
Yep.
Very conflictly, but at the same time also excited. There was still the trusty students of Guru Meher, like Guru Shabbat, there was just, home was with Guru Meher, and the other was with Guru Harpal. There was just a sort of a family bar situation, how I can tell it. Yeah, it wasn't so nice. And in this moment, like Divide and Conquer, right. And I don't remember if it was like on 87 or 88, but it's not, don't care. Because there are several key moments in Rome. I mean, Yogi Bhajan comes the other years to Rome, and then when I was in the ladies' camp. So once is also very important that there was coming, because the letter was coming to Guru Meher, like, I think Guru Meher was also Sahib. He took the votes, the Sikh votes, and he was, there was coming like every 1 or 2 months the letter for the Brotherhood, from Yogi Bhajan. And once there was coming a letter that Yogi Bhajan wrote that I have to be the representation of the Sikh woman in Italy, and I have to be the example for all the others.
He wrote this in the Brotherhood newsletter?
No, on the letter for me, private.
A private letter to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me and Guru Meher.
I see.
That I have to teach like the grace to the others. It was only 1 year, And then how can I tell to the others that you have to follow me? But who I am? Inside in mind, there was just a feeling. How can I do it? But it was an order from Yogi Bhajan, So I have to explain to like this 100 women, there was just a huge group in Bologna, Gobind Singh. He was one of the first students of Guru Meher. That there was Joy Marina later, Joy Marina in Bologna. Because, all the students from Guru Meher, the first generation, have just their own students. Gurudev was coming the end of 80s, 80, like about 90. So there was a huge group in Bologna, in Rome, and also in Naples. And to understand them that I'm now, you have to I'm like your model, you have, I even don't know what would have to be a Sikh woman, And I told her there was just a huge conflict with several women in the inner circle. I absolutely don't name anybody now, even not spiritual names. But there were several women too. They wasn't absolutely not happy about it. That Yogi Bhajan named me. I don't really was happy about it, And this 2-1, there was just much more years before, and there was inner circle, So when I organize it, I have some friends close to me. Atmakar, she was one of my best friends, and your daughter Dharmakar, that I told you, she wrote a book in Italy, just she was in India, but I don't want, I only tell this, so, and I have very good contact also to her. She helped me very much. She wasn't in a circle. Even me in realness, I wasn't in a circle. I was it by chance, So I organized it. We rent a room close to the Vatican. It was like a sort of sports center, a huge room. And there was coming like 80 women. And I was sitting there to present all this. They attacked me, verbal attacks. I couldn't even speak.
Who attacked you?
The other 2 women. And I was so able to influence almost the others. In the end, I was like sitting there, all my blood was in the head, and there was only Atmakar and several others there, like a consolation, right? They calm me, they encourage me. What they're doing. But even I was confused. In one part, I thought, yes, it's normal. Why? Why have to tell you have to follow me? Why? I am not a perfect Sikh woman. But I wasn't able to tell to Yogi Bhajan, I don't want to do it. And I was much younger than the others. In one way, I can understand them, you know what I mean? In one way, for me today, it's normal that it creates like a sort of rivalry or conflict.
I mean, it sounds like it created quite a conflict. What I hear you saying is that he put you in charge of doing like some sort of grace of God teachings, which is the women's teachings, to teach other women how to be proper Sikh women. And there were other two women in the Italian community that were upset that you got appointed to do that instead of them. And then in the middle of you teaching in front of the whole group of 80, these two ladies attacked you. But what did they attack you about? What did they say? And
believe me, I don't remember the words anymore. I remember only their rage.
But are they attacking you that you're not those things, or that Kundalini yoga is bad? Like, are they bad about the thing, or are they bad? Are these people Sikhs? Are they students? Are they
No. There was like, how I told you, there was like inside out. They would become like Sikhs, but they wasn't still Sikh. One, yes. One had a turban. One of them, yes.
So you're
one
just
of them,
talking
yes.
about local Italian people, not from the US.
Yeah. After they left the cult, some years later they left the cult.
But
the one that had the turban left the cult, and the other that she was like inside, outside. In the end, she also left.
It sounds like it's just an internal Italian conflict where you get appointed by Yogi Bhajan to do something. They wanted that position. They didn't get it, so they're attacking you like school children girls. I guess I'm trying to follow. You said this is after you're married. You get appointed by Yogi Bhajan to teach them.
Yeah. It was like exactly. It was like 1 or 2 years after I was just married to Guru Meher. Yeah.
So then that happens, but you end up getting sent to Hamburg, Germany.
In the meantime, there was still 2 ladies' camps. And there was coming also, once coming Tarn Taran Kaur to do a course for pregnancy. And she was hosted in our house. And there was also present the other woman, even the 2 one. And to prepare, I was always present every Gurdwara, every Sunday, because Satkartar Singh had Gurdwara in the countryside of Rome, like 1 hour by car. So this was also a very important meeting with all the turban people. I told her that it was like about 7, 10. Satkartar Singh with his wife, she was Austrian one, but some just left also. There was there still wasn't Sikh, but they are today, by chance. And this was like these meetings, and we do everything every day. Sadhana, Guru Meher was very committed, but not so strict how it was in the past. He also did lessons, yoga lessons, private yoga lessons, and our life was like a Sikh life in Rome. That the program was that Yogi Bhajan comes every year once. I have to go 1.5 months to America. And this was just programmed, it was our lifestyle. In the meantime, we are good yoga people, not so strict like certain others, but to our way, And so, once Yogi Bhajan comes, I don't remember, it was 87 and 88, it was, or if it was like before or like after the camp, I think it was before. He was coming, and Guru Meher, he was like a sort of stylist, and he designed for me the dress, the white dress, little large. And Yogi Bhajan told, I am dressed like a monk, a San Francisco's monk.
Funny.
And he told to Guru Meher, it was also humiliated for him, to inform of the secretaries. I remember, I think it was in our home, because he was next to the ashram, and next to the house of where he was hosted, his brother. The ashram was like next. He was like here and there, here and there. And he told to Guru Meher to prepare a check for about 1,000 euro and have to shopping with the secretaries in Via Condotti in Rome to buy fashion dress. At that time, I wasn't like the fashion girl. I always like I like my Birkenstock, my hippie type. So for me, it was not like, I was going because the pressure was so strong that I did shopping. And I remember I was going with Tarn Taran Kaur, Via Condotti, very nice. And the secretaries love the box of the bags from Gucci and all this like that. So I dressed different, like secretary style, It was really strange. I do shopping. She'd like to decide what I have to dress. I don't want it, so we did like a pact. Yeah, it's okay. Both have to like it. Yeah, there are so strange moments, all this. Today I can put it in a right angle, but at that time it was really strange.
And these are a lot of American secretaries that traveled with him to Rome and are shopping, and it's kind of like a whole entourage there, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So I have to be like them, And this is for example, one moment that I remember very well. And so back to the ladies' camp on 87 and 88 I don't remember exactly what's happened in 87 or 88, but anyway, don't care. So the special moment that I really remember very well, first was the Sevadar, the Karma Yoga, in the range of Yogi Bhajan. And I was in charge to clean the bedroom from the secretaries. And the bunk beds, I was shocked about the bunk beds. You never seen the room from the secretaries? I was shocked. It was close to the huge living room, when you get in the living room. And right in the end, there was like a small room with like bank bags, like for young people in the host. This wood, it was really like nuns. I felt so bad.
Wow, how many?
And right after, it was like 4 or 6 beds, And you remember his bedroom very close? Very little. I have to clean his bedroom. He wasn't there at that time. But there was his wife. And at that time, I was still convinced that he shared the bed with his wife. And she was sitting there, remember, on the lounge bag, with her grandchild. Very nice. In the meantime, I'm cleaning the bathroom. I felt humiliated. I didn't like it. But I did it. And, like this certain key moments that I remove immediately. For example, his grandchild. I remember one grandchild was really overweighted. I don't like this. Why he teach to us diet, all this, and this is spoiled grandchild, eating the whole time. And when I told him to Guru Meher, poor Yogi Bhajan, he have to deal with his family. He is not his family, and you are much stronger. You are not woodgrass, So I was strong. I was in my small tent because the second year I wasn't in the huge tent anymore. Guru Meher bought me the small Ferrino tent they use in the mountain when you go to Himalaya. And I was in this close tent, the small tent. And I was proud because I was strong. Yeah. In the meantime, all the inner circle guests, and once there was coming the Harpals, they stay in the trailer, the nice trailer. And I ask, why I'm there? You are stronger, you are more spiritual.
Because they're in a trailer and you're in a tent?
Yeah. But I don't tell more. No. So, it was something like incongruent. Incongruent. It's something like, and you remove it immediately. Immediately.
Yeah, because your brain can't hold all the contradiction.
Yeah. And I remember the several times when I go, from the kitchen to the camp, there was like 5 minutes walk. When I saw the Pueblo people, I don't know why, I felt so ridiculous myself. And I told, what we are thinking we are there. And believe me, when I was in Santa Fe and I saw the old woman, the sell, the jewelry, the Turkey jewelry, this old wise woman, this seems like, yes, maybe this was the real spirituality, what I remember from there. In this moment, this were very short moments, I felt so stupid. I don't know what I am. But immediately I was back in the tent. Finish. It was a disappear.
Yeah, I think you're speaking about cognitive dissonance, where we're holding conflicting thoughts and beliefs in our mind. So on one hand, you're seeing all the contradiction. On another hand, you're like fully engaged in it. So while you have these moments of memory you're talking about that were contradictory in your own mind.
And this, I think, this is a strange, coherent feelings. And it's so strange. Or for example, I remember, it was 87 and 88, don't care. They told not to go alone to the bathroom because once there was a man from outside to come in you remember? You go in they try to abuse a woman. You knew about it?
I don't remember really.
They told at that time, I was a child, to not go alone to the bathroom. If I think today, I'm in a camp, and for us this was normal. Today I think, what? I take my suitcase, goodbye. I'm not staying in a camp that at the risk that come a man inside and you go to the bathroom, you can't go. Maybe you take the pistol? Oh. Yeah, for me as a European it was really very strange. But at that time, no. I wonder myself why I wasn't so, yes, I was just...
Understood.
But I tell this to share, no? It's, for me today, if I think it's crazy. Yeah, so all the things were so abnormal for me at that time, but I removed it immediately. And I remember even a certain moment that and I'm sure this happened to a lot of us, that when I saw Yogi Bhajan, I cry so much. I have to cry. My emotion was so strong. I think it happened to several persons. And I remember once, probably I was so alone, and he was sitting there in the end of the lecture, I remember, right after the lecture, I was crying so much, and he was coming to me, and I really felt him like a father, and I embraced him, but like a father, Today I ask, why it's happened all this? Why? Yeah, it's not happened only to me. I hear a lot of others. And this feeling that you're the chosen one, the chosen one, you're the only one. No, I think he was really a master, so an able master to feel everyone like unique chosen. It happened several times, even when he was in Rome. Yeah, and all these feelings, really, it was so, if I think today, my God.
But we're in 1987 and you're at ladies camp. So keep moving us through your story. And then you go back to Europe. So you're giving us some of the perspective that these things happen.
Yeah.
But it didn't change your participation. You're still fully involved.
Yeah, but there is still another very important thing. The second year when I go, 87, I did the Tantra. Because I was just married. I did the Tantra, I remember.
With who?
I don't remember the man anymore.
Okay.
A younger man. And before I was in LA, I told to Guru Meher, I don't want relive the same thing again. I want to stay in a place that I feel really well. Sadhana Singh was just there with Akasha Kar, and they told me that I can stay with them, to not feel alone. Because Sadhana Kar this year, I think she wasn't going there. And don't relive this again. It was a second trauma arriving, Because when I arrived to LA, to the home to Akasha and Sadhana Singh, there wasn't there. Again, there wasn't there. And the taxi driver, remember, was crying, I'm alone, I'm abandoned again. There is nobody here that receive me. And there was next the neighbor, an older lady, she was very nice, she get me in her house. And I told her, what have I do now? You know, in the moment you feel like, what's happened? And it was coming only, I think, after 1 or 2 hours. They don't know, let me anything. And in spite to stay with them, they bring me to the Akasha sisters. The sister of Akasha Kaur had a fiancé. Maybe you remember him. He was a doctor, I don't know. But there wasn't again anymore. And they bring me to stay alone with this man in this house. This was for me absolutely not acceptable. I felt so insecure, alone with a man in a house that I don't know. Very wealthy man, very nice home. Akasha told me it's a so nice house. He's a so nice man.
And this is in
I
LA.
felt terrorized in LA.
Okay. And then how long were you there?
And I was so upset. I told it to Guru Meher, but he couldn't do anything. In the end, by chance, I met a young girl like my age from Germany. She was there, very precarious. She was fiancée also with a Sikh, a young Sikh, and I stayed with her. It was absolutely not comfortable. It was really very precarious, but better this than to stay alone there. It was for me very shocking. Today I think about why, yeah. But it was very shocking for me. And yeah, this was still remembering that they're coming up, especially last year, you know, all this what you knew and all the answerings now, they become now also. Yeah, this was happened also when I was in America at the time, 87. And when I come, and I did also the Tantra, but I not happen anything. And I get back. The same thing again, Yogi Bhajan was coming to Rome every year. 88 again, ladies camp. And I think there was also coming the Harpals, was just more students that I know at the time. I was just a little more familiar. And I remember, but I don't. Yes, for example, we loved so much the swimming pool.
At the ranch.
Yeah. And it's also very strange. You know, now I tell you what I felt at the time. There was a window downstairs. And sometimes I thought, I hope Yogi Bhajan don't see us. It was like, I don't know what I feel. Like I couldn't even imagine only the thing that he can see us. I felt guilty. And at that time, I don't know about it. For sure today, I can imagine it's my brother that he was looking there. I don't know. That was like the sort of thoughts that you remove immediately. Immediately. Yeah, this was all this observings that I had at the time, not what I saw. My perceptions also, what I felt about all this. But always, I remember once when I was in the kitchen in his ranch, I was looking outside. There was all the people around him when they go to, I don't know, watch restaurant. And at a certain moment, he turned the head to my direction, but I saw him from the kitchen and he did a big mouth. It was strange. But today, when I hear other stories, you know what I mean? It's strange. It was also strange, you know. Today I think, yeah, it was strange. Today I find answering about it. Or for example, when he was in Rome, always in these times, I was in the kitchen of Harpals. I was there alone. And for a moment, I become a hit on my back. I turn, it was him.
Yogi Bhajan.
Yogi Bhajan. Yeah, like the things, you know. Today I know, but at that time it was something all a little strange. Yeah. And so there were still several other things. Yeah, the most important things right before Tarn Taran, I will shortly arrive. One thing that was really still very strange was I think it was just 88. There was Sikh warrior very close to Yogi Bhajan. I think he's still alive, but I don't remember his name anymore. He was also several times in Rome, also in the ashram of Guru Meher Kaur at that time. And we have to do a continuous meditation, because he was like a sort of saint. But I didn't like this man. He was so serious. He was like a very handsome Sikh man, like 50 years, but like very serious. And we have to do the praying for him continuously. And it was in the Gurdwara in the range of Yogi Bhajan. And we have several turns. And my turn, I remember, was in the evening. You remember the walking from the camp to the range is about 5 minutes walk, right? I don't remember the details. I arrived there. It was just evening. There were the bodyguards outside there. And I did my chanting. But every hour there should be a turn. But my turn wasn't coming. So I continued chanting. And I become very upset. What I'm doing here? I have to chanting the whole night. I was terrified. I was so terrified. I have to sing for this man that I even don't know. But at the same time, I felt guilty to stop it. Oh, if I stop it, maybe it's happened something. This magic thinking, this tremendous magic thinking. I was sitting there, upset, chanting this mantra that even I don't remember anymore, and it was. My turn wasn't coming. So, in a certain moment, I get up, and there was one outside, and I told her, oh, where is my turn? She was not very happy about it. And from this on, I don't remember anything anymore. I don't know how I get back. It was dark, if I get back alone. I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember everything. But it's strange, Everything's so strange. Yeah. This was 88. And I come back. And just some months later, on February 89, Yogi Bhajan, like every year, some years he come also twice. Especially when Gurudev becomes more important in Rome. It was 89. I remember it was full of people in our ashram, not in Harpal's house, but ashram. It was like 60 people, straight together. And Guru Meher have always to translate. And it was sitting there, and Yogi Bhajan told to all, in front of all, so, because the 4 years it was gone, 4 years you have to have a child. And he told to us, you don't have sex? And he was like embarrassed what he does. But we have a child, like this pressure. And he told, Guru Meher Kaur is like a bottle, like a ghost in the bottle, and she will explode. I don't know what it means.
What Yogi Bhajan said about you in the room in front of everybody.
In the room in front of everyone, and if sex and all this, we'll have to have a child. And I know I need a secretary. I think Guru Meher could be a good secretary for me.
That's what Yogi Bhajan said.
Yeah. I was like...
Talking about you.
About me.
He's saying that you could be a good secretary for him.
Yeah, but it was also directed to Guru.
Right. So he's basically telling Guru Meher, why don't you have kids? And if not, then I'm going to go ahead and take her and make her my secretary.
Exactly. Today I understand it. At that time,
but at the time it's confusing. He's just saying these things, but you don't have any context for what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Horrific.
So, I have to tell it. I think it was important to tell it. Yeah. And this was February. And you can imagine that I wasn't going to the ladies' camp. And Guru Meher convinced Yogi Bhajan to send me to Tarn Taran Kaur to Hamburg. And I was there 2 months, about 1 month. I remember also a very beautiful time. She was very strict, right? I was together with Madeleine. She don't remember me anymore. I sent her also a mail about she don't remember me, but I remember her very well. She was only, I think, she was teeny, 10, 12 years old. There was also a Belgian boy. And we have every day we have her lectures. And yeah, she gave me a lot of counselings. Yeah, and not so long after I get pregnant. But I'm happy, believe me, I'm really a happy mother. And if I'm sitting here today, Guru Nishan, believe me, I do all this to find a sense, because it's not, I won't recriminate anything. You know? All what happened is happened. And for me it's important to not justify anybody, but it's very selfish for myself. I have 2 wonderful kids. I have a wonderful son and I have a wonderful daughter. You know? And this is for me the most important thing in my life.
Absolutely.
And I learn a lot. It was really a long learning process. And my researching starts, how I told it, in 2012, but in realness, I started just 20 years ago. And so it's important also to mention my grandmother, father sides, because when we told to research, it's not healing without truth. It's impossible. How heavy it is. But my grandmother was a victim of Nazi regime. She is my lighthouse. She died in a gas camera for a very tremendous family violence my grandfather. And at that time there wasn't therapists, to anti-violence center. At that time the woman was hysterical, and this all the problem, the woman. But I can't tell her story today, obviously, but I hope once I will write a book about her story. But it's connected, because how I told you before, all what's happened to my grandmother, I think all the things that happen now and what I told you before, or the past of the regimes, it teaches me a lot, the researching, because I start on 2002. It was still when I was married with Guru Meher. But when I start to research the story of my grandmother, I find again, slowly, my own identity. The space inside in me. Her voice, not like a magical thing, like really a very scientific things, like, you are what you can also heritage the traumas that they're not resolved. I discover everything, and this year, on 2005, there are now 20 years anniversary that I knew about the truth of my grandmother. And 8 years later, and from this on, that was like a process, very, very painful, that I knew that I did this not only for my grandmother. I do it for myself. And okay, I wasn't a victim from Nazi regime, but I can tell you, I am inside. Yes, okay, 3HO was a Nazi regime, but this 3HO was a regime, a totalitarianism regime. Absolutely a totalitarianism regime. Especially when I knew about the kids in India. When Yogi Bhajan said they have to live on the hell, this is a concentration camp for me.
And you thought that at the time?
At that time, when I researched about my grandmother, I don't knew about anything about it. I knew it only 1 year ago, but I can connect it now. It's like a red thread for me.
What you're saying is when you started doing your research in 2012 and beyond, that it linked back to you to realize that you had generational trauma of your grandmother having been physically abused and domestic violence within her relationship, and how that generationally has passed.
This was just in 2000, and I knew the trauma of my family, of my grandmother. I knew it, but I never had the force to search it. You know, you have to have a certain major to do it.
So now you're saying that you're seeing the parallels now of the totalitarian, abusive regime of what we now know 3HO Kundalini Yoga cult is, compared to what you thought it was during all the years that you were participating. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so bring us back to, it's like 1987. It was like 89. You get sent to go to Hamburg, and then you end up having your son around 1990, and then lead us up to then what happens.
Exactly. So the pregnancy was wonderful. I really was at that time really happy to become mom. You know, it was like inside in me, and this, I'm so happy about it also. I really felt happy about it. Absolutely, it was at this moment. The pregnancy, everything was going well. I remember that, but just at that time, Yogi Bhajan, with all his absolutely teachings, that he told to not breastfeeding the child in the night, for me it was tremendous. I tried to do it, but it was tremendous, because it was so much dogma. A man teach to a woman how she have to breastfeed her own baby. Oh my God.
So at the time you didn't listen to it?
I did what I could do, but all the straight bundle rolls, I didn't it's so correct how he teach it, because it's tremendous.
Like it was beyond your
Or cold shower when you're 3 years. It was always for me a so huge conflict, and Guru Meher also, he was, you have to do this and that, and I was so insecure, you know. It was something like, and also my delivery wasn't so happy, you know. It was, I don't want to go too much deep in this. It was very, very, very not so easy thing at the time. The pregnancy was going well. Okay, I did a home delivery, but there were several things that it's better I don't tell today. But okay. But anyway, in the end it was everything going well. But I have the 40 days to stay in the house, all this rigid rules from Yogi Bhajan, you know, to not have anybody, to not meet anybody. This was for me huge loneliness at the time, huge loneliness. And I wasn't supported from anybody at that time, you know. It was very heavy. But anyway, I was very lucky in the same time. And with the breastfeeding, I find in a way, you know, I chanting the whole night kirtan, but I become like a sort of depression, because it's so normal to put your child on the breast during the night when it's hungry. With my daughter, I did it years after when we left the cult. It's tremendous what they teach. Tremendous. And the spandler are also strict. It was like, whoa. But you know, it was very difficult for me.
You're talking about the bundle roll that you put the baby in.
Yeah, so straight, you know, but very straight like this. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Yeah, okay, Tarn Taran Kaur was convinced about it. She did it really by heart, and okay, but certain things there was a little too hard.
Sure.
And all this, so you know, my son, it was just 90. I delivered on May 90. With Harpal and Guru Meher, the things was becoming just, the conflict became bigger. And finally on 92, there was just certain things that today I know, but at that time I don't knew, that Harpal left all. He was never sick, but he left together with Gobinde and a huge group.
Meaning they stopped talking and communicating with Yogi Bhajan.
Yeah. And we remain again. So until we was in Harpal, they don't want, like, you know, we don't exist anymore for them. And the group was remain for Yogi Bhajan. There wasn't so much. in the end, because a lot, Sadhana Singh was going to America, Guru Meher Singh left the cult. You know, the first generation, his first students, there was several, they're gone also. And only today I know, because last autumn I was in Munich, there are others that join to Gurudev. And
so it sounds like there was a big defection of Harpal and his students. They all left. There was obviously some inner conflict, but there was people that were joining the Gurudev movement, and Satnam Rasayan was starting to grow at that time. So that whole faction of Italy was still growing. Meanwhile, there's a fissure happening with Harpal and his students. They leave, and then you all stay, but not.
It was like this small thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have also to tell how you told you the rivalry was a lot. Also between Gurudev and Guru Meher.
There was
can
a
imagine.
big rivalry.
Oh,
Rivalry between Guru Meher Singh. And remember that Yogi Bhajan wielded a lot of this rivalry behind the scenes purposely to be able to kind of create more loyalty and specialness between him and his chosen sons.
Exactly.
Going back to the chosen ones. Even somebody like a Guru Meher, he's like the hybrid one, where he's kind of like the rebel son, you know, where he's doing his own thing. He kind of has his own ideas. He follows Yogi Bhajan directly, but in his own mind. 3HO and the other leaders are the ones that have a problem. He's the one who's interpreting the teachings most effectively, and with an open mind to include all teachings like Osho and Tai Chi and all these other types of things, as if he's more inclusive. And this helps. I personally think this is a part of the coping mechanism that happened around the 87, 88, 89, 90, because people were leaving. And so there had to be some sort of way to understand why large factions were leaving. And so people justified their relationship directly with Yogi Bhajan as a way to justify, well, they're leaving Sikh Dharma or they're leaving 3HO, but they're not leaving Kundalini Yoga. They're not leaving the philosophy. They're not leaving Yogi Bhajan because they had his direct student-teacher relationship. My dad had a similar philosophy. While he left around 1992, in his mind, he never left Yogi Bhajan. He never left the teachings. He thought he was just going to teach in his own hybrid philosophical way. But meanwhile, he's carrying on a predatory abuse model in new spiritual cultural settings, which it sounds like what Guru Meher, what the hybrid model of where he decided to head off with you and your family.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so there's the separation. Guru Dev Singh's getting more growth. Harpal Singh leaves. You're still around, but not too long later, Guru Meher and you all disappear.
Yeah, exactly. So when on 92, when Harpal left, I know today, but I can't tell it now exactly. We was alone. And for sure, only today I really understand the deep reason, you know. So he also decided to left the cult. And for him it was very difficult because he take the votes. He had really a huge commitment, you know, what he had. He also brought the yoga, Kundalini Yoga, to Europe, to Italy. And he was the refer person at that time, you know. I think it was also a sort of, how you tell, a failure, that you failure in your life, failure.
You mean Guru Meher felt like a failure, you're saying?
Fallito, moment.
Failure.
Failed.
He failed, but
like
the failed son.
A feeling.
So I'm just trying to figure out where we are. Guru Meher feels like a failure because he doesn't have his following anymore, or he's not connected to Yogi Bhajan, or I'm not sure what's...
I think he felt lost, you know. Everything was broken, you know, because in reality they had a very good... He had in the region, he had really a very good relationship to his brother. I think Yogi Bhajan did also huge damage in the community. He really... His strategy of divide and conquer creates really a very bad situation in Rome.
So then what happens?
And this was like when you're bombing a town and there is only ruins. He lived like ruins. And there was like a fixing point anymore, because the Roman group, and especially the followers of Harper, there was a huge community. So even for me it wasn't so good. And I have to be honest, the first 7 years when I was inside in the thrill show, there was also good aspects, I had really good friendships. Atmakar, there was also, not to justify it now, but there was also really a lot of the same type of spirituality. I was convinced for a betterment in this world when we do this. I really believe that we was like in a better world with democratic values, and spiritually values like Christians, not Catholic. I mean really the authentic Christian spirituality. We was really on a path that we was convinced, and I'm sure a lot of us was it.
Sure. So now it's crumbling, and there's all these factions, and everybody's fighting against each other, and some people leave, and so Guru Meher is feeling lost. As his wife, you're probably not getting any information. You have no idea.
No, anything. So, a certain moment when the times was major, he write a letter to Yogi Bhajan, very friendly. I remember still there was coming Satsimaran. I don't know if she was coming, especially for Guru Meher. I remember so well when she was sitting there in our living room. Yeah, and she dry in a way. She was so nice. She was so gentle. Usually Satsimaran, she's a very serious person, But anyway, we was inside Guru Meher take this decision, and we move away from Rome to Como.
She helped to make that decision.
And he make it, and And for me it was also okay, But this is another story that maybe today, this is now my second story that begins.
Understood. Anything else you want to say about your time in 3HO?
So my time in 3HO, so I remember also it was in 87, 88. I remember we have to do war games and martial arts in Ram Dass Puri. I remember it was tremendous. We was walking like military march, And I have to be honest, they was so fanatic. Mm-hmm. So fanatic. What I told you before, I am the first free war generation in Europe. My parents still born in the war. And if I take today, I was 20 years when I give up this huge gift of democracy and joins the totalitarian system of Yogi Bhajan. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. The freedom. So remember what's happened there. We did the war games. You remember Ram Dass Puri, when you go down, there was this small stream with all the wonderful nature, the small forest. There was like, you go down, there was like a small stream, and there was also a lot of mud, and we get like camouflage with mud, and we used tomato sauce like blood. And that was so fanatic. It seems I remember this play we was done when we was a child, Indian and cowboys. That where we are a child here, or we're in a spirituality community for peace, and we have to play war. So I remember you have another culture, another story, history. It's normal, But for us, it was for me. And especially for one, I remember the Italian group, the German group, there was some Spain, and there was one German, young Italian girl. I don't remember her name anymore. And she was for sure more courageous than others. She was more courageous, was more criticized maybe inside. And so on a certain moment she start argue, like a discussion. This one of them that was really the most fanatic. Yeah, the enemy, you have to have this, we have to prepare for a war and this and that. And that, what, we are silly what we are doing here. We are not kids anymore. And it was up. And so in this moment, she was like our leader in this moment. I remember the whole European, German, Italian woman, we joined to her. Yeah, it's incredible. We won't do it anymore. This is it's stupid what we're doing here. Seems like we have to depart tomorrow for Syria and to be like ISIS. I don't know what, And I remember Yogi Bhajan, when he was coming the day after, he was like dressing up with this military. Remember, sometimes they have this military they remember in the evening when he come for this usual speech, there was like a fight, something, a discussion. And so he give like a lecture to the American students. Yeah, you have to know that in Europe they have another history. There was the war. There's the feeling of guilty, Nazi fascism in the Italian. They have the guilty, they're very sensible about the question about war, and so they try to get them together to clarify. This was really thing that Yogi Bhajan likes very much. To create this sort of conflicts between different cultures, I think also. Yeah, this is for me like, and there are also moments that I think, yes, we wasn't total manipulated. Sometimes we have like moments that our brain was more sane moments, that we have inside still a critical part in us. Some, more or less. And this lady, I still admired her for this, because she was even today, it's so easy today to fall in every sort of cult. And it's so difficult to be honest and have the courage to tell the things when they are not have to. She was courageous, this lady, yeah?
Yeah, it sounds like she was calling out the hypocrisy in the moment as opposed to just kind of going with it, which is a very hard thing to do, as you're pointing out, in the midst of it. And then notice how he then interweaved his teaching lesson in the lecture as a way to, quote, address that issue and kind of pit Europeans against the Americans, a way to position mindset as if he had, the knowing of how everybody operates, but really he's just wielding more power and control to keep these people from talking to these people, from putting that continuity of critical thinking that says, why are we learning war tactics supposedly on Peace Prayer Day? Right?
Exactly.
It's contradictory. And that's the nature of cultic thinking, right? I think that's essentially what you're pointing out and wrapping up with, is that while these things are going on, we oftentimes aren't able to point them out because our brains are in a state of cognitive dissonance where they're holding two conflicting belief systems. And in cultic studies, and if you get support from therapy around cult-specific impact, the concept is that it creates in our brains something called disorganized attachment. And that can link back to our own family system history, in which we also had disorganized attachment, where there can be abusive systems in our household.
Exactly.
Our parents, our grandparents, as you talked about, the generational trauma that can be passed, as well as generational resilience. We can get both. And you spoke to that. You spoke to the generational resilience from your grandmother yet you hold, and from your mother that you hold, and yet unconsciously you're playing out generational domestic violence patterns because you got wrapped up in that cognitive dissonance, in these abuse patterns that you couldn't quite see because you were so drawn to the spirituality, the community, the music, the consciousness. But right in plain sight, there were all these contradictory things. And this young student is pointing out the contradictory military thing, but you could only kind of jump on that bandwagon. You didn't have enough personal recovery in you yet to be able to stop and think for yourself. Many more years would have to occur before you've been able to collect these threads and create the matching link.
Exactly. Yeah, really, yes, you get the point, right? Yes, it's really like this. When I research, beginning of researching with my grandma, it helps me also to understand the cult nature of the CHO, because although the Nazi regime was a cult, Hitler had his spiritualists. It was a cult. The Nazi regime was a cult.
Yeah, well said.
But
well said. I like how you're making the parallel. I think it's really important. I think that this is a part of why anyone who's choosing to move forward and teach Kundalini Yoga or perpetuate the 3HO Kundalini Yoga lifestyle or Sikhi 3HO lifestyle has to be willing to look at the totalitarian abuse systems that are actually embedded into the systems and practices and ideologies themselves. And you're pointing that out very specifically because while there can be, quote, German culture, Nazism can be embedded into the German culture, into the consciousness of the people, and you can pass that on, just like in 3HO, that totalitarian abuse system can be mimicking your language of yoga and meditation and trauma recovery because you're using an abusive system that silenced and systematically and sadistically abused people on a multiple amount of levels, from sexual, physical, mental, emotional, and financial abuse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did a lot of researching, even other cults also, that Yogi Bhajan read Mein Kampf from Hitler. He read it. Why? Because he was interested about history, or to learn how to manipulate masses
and control minds.
Osho,
control the mind.
I read a book from Jane Stark, the closest secretaries from Osho admire Hitler. Jim Jones, he admired Hitler and all the dictators. So sometimes I think Yogi Bhajan, could be like, how you tell, they have a very similar structure of personality. Yeah, one is worse, one is less, you can discuss about it, but it depends on the situation. It depends the context and the time. So I think in this totalitarian regime for me, it starts just in the family where is violence. Yeah, usually it could be all the woman, the violence one, but in this patriarchic world, very often, yes, it's the father, it's the patriarch. It's just a sort of system of totalitarianism. You are isolated, controlled.
I want to thank you for coming to give us a glimpse into your recovery and healing process. You're making very large links of totalitarian systems. I want to recommend the book Love, Terror, and Brainwashing by Alexander Stein. The book is called Systems of Totalitarian Control. And that book was really helpful for me because she takes basically some academic research on cultic studies and specifically cults, systems of control, and then she attaches it to research on attachment style, basically our earliest bonding attachments. She helps to explain what happens to our brain. So in Rosalinde's case, she comes from a long family that had some domestic violence in it, and some of us may come from family systems that weren't safe. But sometimes you can come from a healthy family system, and what she explains in this book is that even if you come from a, quote, healthy family system, not from abusive family systems like us, your brain, what happens once you're in a cult is your brain becomes disorganized. And so she explains what actually scientifically and biologically happens to our brains in systems of totalitarian control. And that's why time and distance doesn't necessarily heal us. We actually have to go and look at that attachment, what happens in our brain at emotional bonding moments, and how there can be complex trauma in our brains because of the systematic programming of totalitarian systems, whether it's a family system, a group, or an individual partnership and relationship. So you really pointed that out to us today. I want to thank you. I know that you have a lot more to your story that you can't yet share because you're in the midst of so much. But I want to thank you for giving us a glimpse into your 3HO story, because it's a very critical time. There was a lot taking place at that time, as we know now, in terms of what was happening with Premka and her leaving, and like you mentioned, Kate Felt, and just all the things. And so even to have factions leaving in 1991 and 92 puts a scope on what was happening in Europe at the same time that that kind of chaos of what was happening in LA, New Mexico, and all of the things that were happening in the United States simultaneously, which is a part of the story we're wanting to get out. We're wanting to spread the message of what was going on in Europe, that Europe has a long history of its own abusive ashram systems that followed the Yogi Bhajan regime process, so to speak, and you've given us a real glimpse into that, which I can really appreciate.
Thank you very much to you that you offer this possibility, because your platform is really, it's open to everyone, right? Everyone can, who was victim, who was witness, and who wants heard.
That's right.
Right.
Who's ready to be
I
heard?
think it's still more, I think it's give even more satisfaction if someone maybe start to come to open, because the important is to recognize what you did. That's the most important thing. And this I appreciate so much from you, because it's really a platform that everyone can come in. It's not that you can't come in,
Absolutely. And I hope you're all listening. Anytime you're ready to come tell your story, you can reach out to me at gn@gurunishan.com.
Yeah.
And yeah. Do you want to tell us about the song you chose and why?
Yeah, the song starts from my childhood. Madonna, it's an ancient Yiddish Jewish song. Yiddish is a language very similar to German. It's the ancient German, and it's a language of the Jewish people that was in the Eastern Europe, Ukrainian, Polonia, and the music, the Yiddish music, is very beautiful, and it's very similar to the Gypsy music. And when I was young, 15 years, I discovered this in a job. How I told you, I come from a so heavy land culture, farmer culture, and the cows were in the stall and they get slaughtered. And this song, the text is about it, At that time, I was concentrated about the melody. And so I chose the English version from Joan Baez, that's her wonderful voice. And this song, I like it so much when I was young. It gave me like a feeling of freedom and lightness and joy. I remember I danced about this music. Yes, and maybe it was also a connection to my grandmother. I don't know, but she wasn't Jewish, but she was also, for several reasons, a victim in the Nazi regime. So all this heaviness, all this heaviness. I think this music, it touched me so much, more than others, because it gave me lightness. Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a listen. This is Donna Donna by Joan Baez. We don't listen to the whole clip because of copyright purposes, but you can look in the show notes for the Uncomfortable Conversations 3HO playlist on Spotify, and you can listen to the entire song. So let's take a listen here.
On a wagon bound for market, there's a calf with a mournful eye. High above him there's a swallow winging swiftly through the sky. How the winds are laughing, they laugh with all their might. Laugh and laugh the whole day through, and half the summer's night. Donna, 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 donna.
All right. And I want to thank you again. Any last words before we wrap up?
Yes, thank you so much. I hope that I can still find more answers about this sharing with others. And I really hope for the future that more former members or still maybe members, they maybe can possibility to addressing it, to confront it, to really have the possibility. I just started last year, I remember I was in Rome, that they understand that it's not a process or judgment or something like this, but really have the courage to confront, to answer, to give answers of too much questions. And this is a right. We have the right to know it, the truth. And I'm so grateful that it's something growing, And I hope this will happen more and more.
100%. I'm with you. Thank you again for your support in translation of the Under the Yoga Mat, The Dark History of Kundalini Yoga, Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini Yoga, and also for your translation of the cultish nature of 3HO Kundalini Yoga. Both books are available. You can order them online in both Europe and the United States. So please be sure to get your copy. If you have any capacity for translation support in other languages, please reach out to us so that we can get the Under the Yoga Mat translated sooner than later and continue allowing the international communities to be educated about the systemic abuse of the Kundalini Yoga 3HO community. I want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming forward and telling your story. So after recording this episode with Rosalinde, both her and I had a few reflections that we wanted to share about this recording. What I wanted to bring up was how so much of what she shared really spoke to the holy man formula that carries on to this day. And I want to speak about how there were different factions in the Rome community at different phases and stages, and how Yogi Bhajan almost pitted those people against each other, ashram to ashram, but also within the city itself, kind of vying for power, but mostly vying for his attention and the kind of the successorship energy. And she really brings us into those stories of the early ashram days. And what we want to bring to present day is that a lot of those early converts are actually still very much in 3HO, whether they follow 3HO or just follow Yogi Bhajan and quote the teachings. One of the themes is that they're wearing turbans. Now in Italy, it's a very prominent thing. They're wearing turbans, even the warrior style turban, and kind of going on creating a following of this kind of spiritual Sikhi, using the Sikh religion and doing their own hybrid formula of yoga. One of the examples is Guru Meher Singh. This is one of the earliest converts of Guru Meher, from my understanding, and he's still teaching today. So whether they left 3HO, left Yogi Bhajan, a lot of them carry on continually wearing their turbans, and a lot of these people are just in full denial of any of the survivor stories and the systemic abuse that has been documented within this culture of 3HO Kundalini Yoga. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think this episode really highlights that, and it's something that we all can become aware of, because these things are carrying on to be taught. Right now, to this day, there's a clip of Guru Meher Singh teaching right now on YouTube. Rosalinde had a few reflections that she really wanted to share. So I wanted to just leave a few of her reflections. 2 books that she wanted to share. Hannah Arendt and her book, The Banality of the Evil, helped me a lot to understand the dark side from the human beings and their vulnerability when they are exposed to extreme stress. And normal and significant people like Eichmann can become mass murderers. It helps me very much to elaborate the trauma from my own grandmother, and helps me understand why still today a lot of my family members prefer to ignore. This crime was so abhorrent, and so incredible that they rejected to even listen. And still today, the intuitions and reflections from Hannah Arendt are very actually also in cults. So she's making a comparison of how this book really impacted her, The Banality of Evil by Hannah Arendt, Arendt, and how this is very similar to what we experience when we are in a cult. The other book she recommended that really supported her was Edith Bruck, A Survivor from Auschwitz. described in her book, The Lost Bread, the brutality and abhorrent experiences in the concentration camp through an incredible poetic prose. She was only 12 years old at the time and survived the worst imaginable hell. The most painful things wasn't the physical torture, hunger, but the deprivation of one's identity and transform all into numbers. This was the most terrified strategy to dehumanize human beings. She's making the parallel, this is Rosalinde's reflections, that she thinks that cults exist in the same strategy, not as extreme as taking our name from a name to a number, but the purpose is really the same, that we dressed in turbans instead of cutting our hair. We let it grow. We change our names. The scope was to transform us into a soldier without a soul. And I think it's so important to never forget the wisdom from people that experience the worst and terrible things, but remain human beings even after all of those terrible things. Edith is one of them, and still today she speaks to young people to remember us, that we are human beings. So those are Rosalinde's reflections that we wanted to get into this podcast. And on that note, since we're all watching a live stream genocide, I hope you will speak out on behalf of Palestinians today as the terrorist state of Israel continues to ethnically cleanse and the United States government funds and supports it. I hope that you are doing your part to free Palestine, to speak up about it, to speak about the atrocities, because we are literally watching the process of how cults dehumanize an entire people and ethnically cleanse them in plain sight. It's not complex, and it's not even complicated if you're willing to feel your own humanity and paying attention to what's actually happening. So please don't forget to say free Palestine. Be sure to get out and speak up for Palestine. Call your representatives, show up at the marches, do Palestinian direct action. And if you need support to follow proper media sources, then you can follow me at my Substack. And I post many different media outlets that you can be watching and listening to. Remember, silence is not neutral. Silence sides with the oppressor. Silence sides with the predators. So speak up, because we are watching a modern-day Holocaust, and we are literally watching the Nazi regime reenacted in Jewish supremacy. Free Palestine. This concludes another episode of the Uncomfortable Conversations podcast, the untold stories of the 3HO Kundalini Yoga community. If you'd like to contribute to this broadcast, you can join me at gurunishan.substack.com to support this work. To be a guest on the podcast, please send an email to me at gn@gurunishan.com. You can subscribe, follow, and support my truth-telling work at gurunishan.com.